And how common this problem is, however, when people don't have enough money. And almost everyone doesn't have enough. Look at how many people around us, with different levels of income, with different quality of life, with different desires, complain about the lack of money. It's even funny somehow, to see and hear all this, because it turns out that no matter how much money you give to someone, it's still not enough. People are constantly dissatisfied with something. However, those of you who are interested in the content of this article probably seriously need money, so I will try to give you maximum useful information on this issue. Be sure to read this article to the end. Just don't rush to grind familiar letters and words made of them. You will need to think about this material thoroughly in order to understand it, and not just force it into your database, to hundreds or even thousands of other similar articles. In general, take reading seriously. I am not going to tell you a fairy tale, but quite serious things so that you can properly understand your financial situation. What to do if you don't have enough money? I have already answered this question many times on this site, in my previous articles. But it is quite obvious that we should return to vital issues regularly, so that every person who has encountered a lack of money could, thanks to such materials, thoroughly understand everything and take the right actions aimed at eliminating this extremely unpleasant problem with money. After all, you need to solve your problems with a lack of money, and not just get new knowledge on old issues, right? I am sure so. And this means that we will return to this topic, the topic of a lack of money, as much as necessary, as you need to understand all your personal financial affairs. Don't worry, I will not repeat myself. Although this topic is hackneyed, we will analyze it in a new way. We will look at it, so to speak, from a new angle. And in general, all my articles, as I have already written about this more than once, complement each other, forming in a person's mind a holistic picture of the world, in which money plays far from the last role. Reading my articles is for you, my friends, not watching fairy tales on TV, in which everything is simply fabulous and wonderful for those who have everything, unlike many of us. Here, thank God, we can discuss the issues that worry us, without any illusions and any lies, from which it is simply sickening. Lies are everywhere these days. This is our reality, in which we all live today. And you, learn to separate the wheat from the chaff, in search of the information you need, otherwise you will fly in the clouds, to please other people's interests. If you have little money, and if you feel it, then no propaganda will convince you that, at least I hope so, that everything is just great in your life, that you have no problems and that you need to come to terms with everything in your life. If you have problems with money, it means that not everything is good and not everything is in order with you, and you need to admit it. And you do not need to put up with this disgrace. You should have enough money for a normal life, and together we will make sure that you have it. Who is to blame? So, lack of money is a problem that is relevant for many of us. Let's think about why such a lousy situation arises in our lives, when this very money begins to be lacking. We are usually told in such cases, when not someone, but specifically we, lack money, that, supposedly, we need to be able to spin, we need to work more. They say, you people are to blame for the fact that you have a pipe with money, you are lazy and do not want to work, and the rest of the world lives well, other people are fine, they are happy with everything. But this is not so. Although many believe in this nonsense. After all, this kind of crap that they push on us looks quite plausible, and it really hits people in the head. Many people fall for such arguments, finding them very convincing and therefore begin to feel like inferior individuals who can't do anything, who are somehow wrong, not like everyone else. But there's one thing, you and I live the way we were taught to live, and if we do something wrong, then it's not our fault, it's our misfortune. If you and I were taught not to earn money, but to do all sorts of crap for a modest salary, then that's exactly what we do what we were taught. And yet, who is to blame for our, and in particular, your financial problems? If we approach this issue seriously, then, first of all, you yourselves. No, seriously, if it weren't for us, there wouldn't be our problems, would there? Other people are also, of course, to blame for our problems. I won't lie, this is really true. If, say, the state is unable to restore order in the economy, as a result of which all its citizens are forced to suffer, then how can we overlook this? How can we not accuse the state of incompetence, theft, betrayal, and God knows what else? If the people's representatives deserve criticism, it should be there, and our problems, of course, can be connected with their mistakes. In the same way, you can scold your boss for being a greedy and ungrateful pig who rakes everything in for himself, and doesn't give a damn about you, paying you pennies. If this is happening in your life, then how can you not be indignant about it? How can you ignore this fact? You are doing everything right, scolding other people for their behavior, if it prevents you from living a normal life. In other words, I do not in any way deny that other people can be to blame for your problems. But what is the point of blaming them for making your life worse or not making it better? They do not set such a goal for themselves, that is the thing. The state does not give a damn about you, it does not give a damn about any of us. So what is the point of blaming it? After all, the state is a powerful, incredibly voracious, bureaucratic machine in which millions of people work, and which sets itself one single goal, to suck all the juices out of us, the bulk of working people. People in power will not invest all day long for our good, unless, of course, we force them to do so. But, judging by their comfortable state in which they currently find themselves, they do not give a damn about us and our problems, including our material condition. Therefore, we shouldn't expect anything from them, because these guys in suits and ties, sitting on our necks, are not our support, they are not our friends, and we will never get help from them. That is why it is pointless to criticize the state, it will simply give us nothing at all. Except problems. The state does not need us, no one needs us at all, except perhaps the people closest to us, so no one will do anything for us. It's the same with your boss. For him you are just a consumable and a tool, which he can replace if he needs it, and he doesn't care about your problems. It doesn't matter what he tells you, it doesn't matter what awards he gives you, and even what salary he pays you is not important. I repeat, your boss doesn't care about you, for him, you are just a tool for making money. Your boss is not your friend, not a buddy, not an equal partner, he is your master. He bought you, and uses you. Therefore, even if your boss is 1,000 times to blame for the fact that you don't have enough money in life, that your life is generally shitty, there is no point in referring to this, finding an explanation for your problems. Your boss is not interested in your well-being, he is interested, first of all, in his own well-being, and with you, as it turns out, so it will be. Yes, they are all against you. And not because these people standing above you, are against you in themselves, no, they are simply for themselves, they are trying to make their lives better, and they can only make it so by making your life worse. And they, motherfuckers, manage to do it, they manage to make your life and the lives of many other people worse, thereby improving their own lives. And who are they? Who are all these people who live at our expense, who have raked in the bulk of all material goods, and with our own hands? Maybe they are reptilians? Maybe they are chosen, special? No, they are the same people as you and me, they just got lucky, not without the help of their intelligence and ingenuity, and they settled into very cushy places. And now, sitting in their cushy places, they graze such suckers as us, and thanks to this they live, and live like people. That is, they live very well. As a person engaged in business, I can tell you frankly that businessmen are also milked in our society, and not just ordinary workers. And many businessmen are milked, I must say, not weakly. Sometimes even a business can be squeezed out of a person if the appetites of the predators above him increase during a meal. And if your boss is a businessman, he skins you alive at work, then rest assured that they are also skinning him alive, maybe not as fiercely as you, but they are skinning him alive nonetheless. So, blaming bad and wrong people for the lack of money is simply pointless. It's like blaming a scorpion for stinging, but that's exactly what it's supposed to do, sting. So I don't recommend you waste your energy and give your precious attention to the wrong people, in large quantities. Think about what you can do to counteract all these ghouls living at your expense, how you can put up a decent fight against them, so as not to let them squeeze the life out of you, or even become one of them. And you can only resist them if you are smart, really smart, not just kind of smart. Understand that no matter what we think of ourselves, no matter how good we think we are, in real life, only really smart and therefore strong people can have material goods and be able to influence the course of events, adjusting them to their interests. For other people, you can make up any fairy tales about yourself, but you yourself should not believe in these fairy tales, otherwise you will completely lose touch with reality. And we have real material goods only in the real world, and not in your illusions, do not forget about it. So if you don't know what to do if you don't have enough money, then you still don't know much, and you, at the very least, need to read this site regularly to transform your brains with the help of my articles, which need a regular upgrade, just like my brains. So, everyone is to blame for your problems, but you are to blame for them more, because for you, your problems are problems, while for other people, your problems are nothing, they don't care about them. And there are such people, they usually live at your expense, for whom your problems are a blessing. Your problems are their bread. And they will gladly create even more problems for you if you allow them to do so, in order to profit from you or use you for their own purposes. So, friends, do not blame Scorpios for being Scorpios, and do not blame ghouls for sucking your blood, because that is their job. What to do? We have already partly sorted out this issue when we came to the conclusion that blaming those responsible for our problems is pointless. So we should not do this. This is what needs to be done first. And then, a person should think about improving his professional skills and improving his financial literacy, so that he can learn to earn good money and at the same time learn how to manage it correctly. This is a very important point, please focus your attention on it. I want you to understand that you can't solve your money problems with one simple piece of advice, because if you don't know or can't do something, then until you learn it, the problems will stick to you like a bath leaf to your ass. The average modern person is a highly specialized module designed to solve one specific problem, which he understands well, thanks to his incomplete education. With such a vision of life, when a person can't do anything else except the work he was taught to do, it is impossible not to encounter financial problems. And if he is also a bad specialist in his field, then his price is guaranteed to be low, that is, he will be, firstly, an easily replaceable specialist, and secondly, a low-paid specialist, because no one will pay good money to a bad worker. In general, the point is that you need to pay your attention to three main points. 1. How good a specialist in your field you are. 2. To what extent are your skills in demand in the society you live in, and how expensive are they in terms of pay? 3. You should also think about what else you can do besides your job. Let's take a closer look at each of these points, most directly related to your lack of money. If you are a bad specialist, then the demand for you will not be high, just as your value will not be high, that is, they will not pay you a lot of money if your hands are growing from the wrong place or your head is not clear enough. Therefore, if you are a bad programmer, a bad electrician, a bad auto mechanic, a bad cook and any other specialist, do not count on a good salary. Well, why the hell should I hire some idiot who will sit on social networks all day and chat with the same slackers like himself about all sorts of nonsense? No, if a person gives me results, of course I will pay him good money, but if he does his job through his ass, then at best, I will pay him little money, and at worst, I will simply fire him. Fair? In my opinion, very fair. So whoever you are, try to be in your field, well, if not the best, then one of the best, then you will be in good demand and you will be well paid, which means that, objectively, you should have enough money for all your needs. Everything is simple and clear. If you are just a tool and are not going to learn something more, then at least be a good tool that many employers will need. Now, regarding the demand for your skills, knowledge and abilities in the society you live in. I think that you, as smart people, understand that not every specialist is in demand in our society and that there are professions that are simply not profitable to do, under any circumstances. Well, for example, when was it profitable to work as a janitor? Never. And what about teachers, doctors, scientists, is it always and everywhere profitable to be them? And factories and plants, is it profitable for ordinary workers to work there? We can continue the list of unprofitable professions for a very long time, because there are many such professions, very many, and I will not be surprised that people who work in such unfavorable places have difficulty with money. And it would seem that many of these professions are socially significant professions that our society really needs. Why then do they not pay a damn for them as they should? It means they are not needed. It means that we have no real need for these professions. So why study for obviously unprofitable specialties? Why sit at an unprofitable job for which you are not paid normal money? Why? You have no way out? There is always a way out, remember this. If it is not profitable for you to work at your job, quit and look for other ways to make money, and it does not matter how and what you will do. The main thing is that you yourself made the right choice, and did not wait for handouts from the state or someone else. If you work as a teacher, and you are paid little, it means that your services are not so necessary to society. I understand that you can extort money from children, or rather, from their parents, but this will not save your situation, because if your parents were smarter, they would pay you nothing. Because they do not need it, but they do not understand this. The system should take care of those it needs, and society should pay those whose work it needs. And if people don't pay you money, they don't need you, get that into your head. You can engage in as much hypocrisy as you like and talk about the importance of certain professions, but the size of the salary clearly shows who the society and the system really need. If the system breeds all sorts of parasitic managers who earn big money, then it needs them and no one else. This is the market, guys. What did you expect? If you are needed, they will not only pay you, they will lick your ass, and if you are not needed, then they will start sucking your blood and humiliating you in every possible way, including through homeless wages. That's all. There is nothing more to discuss here. See for yourself how much society needs you and how highly it values you, and based on objective data, decide who to study or retrain as, and how to act in general, where to leave and where to go. Now let's think about what else you can do, in addition to what you were taught, and whether you can switch to another type of activity, if necessary. If your work is no longer valued adequately, or if it is no longer needed, then you need to learn something new, no matter how old you are. Science fiction? Nothing of the sort. If you want to eat, you will learn everything. But I do not think that you should bring it to this. It is better to start learning some new profession today, when you still feel a slight shortage of money. The sooner you start thinking about diversifying your income, the better, because the more multifunctional module you are, the easier it will be for you to sell yourself. And you should not exaggerate your importance in this world, because if we have irreplaceable people, then they are a mere minority, but the vast majority of people are irreplaceable. A person who really brings great benefit to society will always have money. This is in addition to those ghouls who rob the society in which they live, through both legitimate and illegitimate violence. They also all have money, but they do not bring benefit to society. On the contrary, they harm it. I think that for you, as decent people, it is easier and calmer to live like a human being and interact with society on mutually beneficial terms, rather than be at odds with it. And for this, you need to be able to sell yourself to this society correctly. That is, society must really need you, your knowledge, skills, and abilities. I often hear from some people, quite distant from me, such panicked cries, like, there is not enough money, what to do, how to live on, how to pay for housing, how to repay a loan, how to feed the children, and so on. That is, the point is that the situation developed in such a way that at one fine moment, people began to lack money, whereas before, as I understand it, they had enough. Or maybe you just didn't think about your future, maybe you stupidly lived for today, and now you've discovered that your life is a complete mess. After all, if everything was heading this way, what's surprising about that? Is it possible to hope for stability in the country and the world, or for constant economic growth and, based on these hopes, build your plans for life without taking into account the most pessimistic scenarios? It's stupid to live for today. Let's say that if your salary in previous years grew, let's say, inappropriately, then naturally, with the first stabilization of the economy, your income will decrease, because yours was unreasonably high. You can think whatever you want about yourself, that you are an awesome worker, a specialist, that your education is worth something, that your salary is rather unjustifiably underestimated than overestimated, and that your income should constantly grow. Many people think so. You are not the only one who loves yourself, I assure you. Everyone thinks that they are awesome workers and that they are irreplaceable people in this life. But in reality, everything turns out to be completely different. It turns out that people's work is not as important as they themselves thought, and that there is actually someone to replace them in it, and that in general, you can do just fine without this work and without these people. In such cases, they say that the truth hurts the eyes. In short, friends, increase your survivability by expanding your horizons and diversifying your income. Learn to make money in several ways so as not to be dependent on one single trough. Never get hung up on one single job, no matter how interesting it may be in your opinion. The rules of the game in society are constantly changing, so the need for some professions disappears as needed. And if you suddenly start getting paid little at your job or your salary stops growing, then this means that it's time for you to think about changing jobs, because things could get even worse. A person who really needs you will always be paid good money. I'm telling you this for the 1000th time. Because it's important. Well, I hope that you will take into account everything I have said above and sort it out where necessary, so that everything is in order with your income. Let's now turn our attention to your ability to manage money. After all, if there is not enough money, if a person really needs it, and not just a new toy in the store, then there is definitely a hole in his budget that needs to be plugged. We will talk about your income, which may not be high, in your opinion, below, but for now, let's see where your money is leaking out. And let's also look at how financially literate you are, because this very financial literacy, as was said above, needs to be improved. And I will help you improve it now. First of all, let's pay attention to our favorite loans. Do you indulge in this business? I'm sure you do, because how can you not take a loan when they give it? Besides, everyone takes it, and you want to be like everyone else, you want to be no worse than the rest, right? No big deal, it's normal. This is the kind of economy we have today. It cannot exist without loans, thanks to which you and I can afford to have things that we cannot afford to buy with our meager wages. But there are people who play with these very loans, taking them out in such quantities that no salary would be enough to pay them off. Friends, you must agree, everything needs to be done in moderation. I'll tell you one smart thing now, but don't be offended. Many of you have probably taken out so many of these damn loans that now you don't know what to do with them. This is the problem with the lack of money, maybe not for everyone, but in any case, for many of you. Well, that's what I think. If I'm wrong, if you have other things going on there, well then, I apologize. Loans, lots of loans, this is not about you. Nevertheless, I recommend that you pay attention to this side of your life. Do not forget about the church tithe as the minimum and maximum that must be adhered to in order not to have problems with finances. Do not take out too many loans. You should not do this. It is not in your interests to feed the banks. 1 or 2 loans, maximum 3 or 4, if they are not large, and that will be enough. Otherwise, no magic formulas will help you cope with the lack of money. Learn to spend your money wisely. This is another appeal to you that I want you to hear and understand. If a person does not know how to spend money, he will always have problems with it, regardless of the size of his income. Of course, it is good when you have a large salary or a large income, but do not forget about your expenses, which, as life shows, always try to outstrip your income. You should always clearly understand what exactly you are paying money for a worthy and really necessary thing, of acceptable quality for you and at a reasonable price, or you are buying another piece of junk for a high price, just because the TV told you so. Do not buy crap, and especially do not buy expensive crap. As Baron Rothschild said, I am not rich enough to buy cheap things, and this concept of his certainly has a grain of truth. The quality of the goods and its price must be ideal. But in our damn world, mired in lies, everything has long been turned upside down, and therefore expensive things are often not only unnecessary for us, but they can also be of poor quality. You see, the modern consumer, in the opinion of marketers and advertisers, is a sucker with brainwashed, who does not know how to think at all, he can only react. Don't be offended by me for these words, I did not make them up. I just know what those who come up with all sorts of scams for them think about ordinary people, so I am simply sharing my knowledge with you, and not my shitty opinion. So, trying to be cool, trying to have an expensive thing, supposedly high quality, even if it is a really high quality thing, but at the same time, you don't need it, you will spend your money on brands, advertising, expensive packaging, showing off, on the illusion of your coolness, in general on air. Do you understand this? You will spend your money on air. And then you will not have this money, and you will become a really poor person, but in your back pocket you will have a new, ultra-thin and completely useless phone, with all its idiotic functions, half of which you will never even use. When people give in to emotions and fall for all sorts of advertising scams, then they lose their money in very large quantities. And then someone, in warm and cozy offices, draws colorful sales charts, showing the boss how many suckers and for what amount they managed to palm off something there. I am not against buying good and expensive things, I am not against giant companies developing and producing modern equipment for us, without which our life would be much worse. But if you do not want to have problems with money in your life, then you should consider your own interests first and only then think about the interests of large companies. Of course, I understand that laptops of one well-known American company are of fairly high quality, but many cheap Chinese and supposedly low-quality laptops can work very well. Look, I still have one such laptop and it works. I bought it on sale about 5 years ago. Made in China, it is written on it, and it works. So if I can afford a better, higher quality, more expensive thing, I will buy it, but when I could not afford it or when I simply did not want to spend extra money, I bought a cheap, but quite suitable for my work thing, thus significantly saving my money. That is, I spent my money adequately, that's the thing, and I urge you to do the same, so that you don't harm your budget by chasing fashion and cheap show-offs. Also, keep in mind that your idea that a good thing can't be cheap has long been used against you. Today you can be sold complete crap, that is, a supposedly high-quality thing, which in fact is just as much junk as some cheap thing. Moreover, in some cases, which I'll tell you about some other time, some inexpensive things are much better than similar expensive things, the price of which is not based on quality, but on advertising and simply the markup of a particular retail outlet. You should try to understand the characteristics of the product you are buying, and not focus solely on its price, explaining the quality of this product to it. Such a trick is designed for lazy consumers who are too lazy to strain their brains to figure out what they are paying money for. The quality of a product is sometimes difficult to assess at all. To do this, you need to be an expert in a particular field, or at least superficially understand the type of product you are buying. Once upon a time, the processors of one well-known company, quite expensive, were slightly pushed out of the market by new, cheaper, but no less high-quality processors. At the same time, the company that produced expensive processors began to convince people that they were very high quality, and the processors of their competitors, allegedly complete crap. The question is, why on earth should we believe them? Do you personally understand processors? If not, then why should you believe some advertisers or salesmen who assure you that this particular processor is good and that other one is bad? Do you have your own head on your shoulders? So use it. I worked with my head and found out that there is no difference between the old and new processors that I gave you as an example, that the only difference between them is the price. So you waste your money, falling for one propaganda or another, and then you are surprised that you have little or no money. But those who instilled some propaganda nonsense in you, who sold you an illusion, have money. Very often, a lack of money in a family is connected with the unreasonable spending of one or all members of the family. People want to buy this, buy that, they want everything, and there is no end to these desires. You have to understand that you will never be able to buy everything, and you don't need to do this. All this I want of yours is basically not your desire, it is passions imposed on you by advertising. If I didn't know how much unreasonable spending affects problems related to money, I would not write about it here. I remember how some women, being in a very emotional state, with whom I was solving their financial problems, persistently assured me that they spend money only on the most necessary things, and do not allow themselves anything extra. But upon detailed study of all their expense items, it turned out that this is far from true. It turned out that they throw a lot of money to the wind, and they should not panic, but moderate their appetites. Study the product you are buying thoroughly, try to understand what exactly you are paying for, the advertising that irritates you every day, or what you really need. In addition, refuse loans for a while, if you have them and you do not have enough money. You have clearly lost control over your finances if you are up to your ears in loans and without money. Therefore, for some time you will have to live more modestly, and not chase fashion, not chase expensive things, not take loans, and so on, until you learn to count your money again. Then, when your budget is balanced, you can start using loans and allow yourself to make expensive purchases. Keep track of your small expenses. Many people allow themselves to make so-called small expenses, which, firstly, they make regularly, secondly, they are constantly increasing, and thirdly, people do not control them at all. Take a pen and a notebook and write down all your small expenses, such as a taxi ride, a trip to a restaurant, hours of chatting on the phone, buying some trinket in a store and similar things. Write it down, do not be lazy to do it. And then you yourself will calculate how much you have in total per day, look at what you spend your money on, and most importantly, look at what expenses your small, it would seem, expenses turn into, in a month and in a year. Of course, I understand you want to feel free and uninhibited, You want to spend money on everything that seems necessary for you, what you need. You want to feel like people. I understand all this. Especially, those of you whose life leaves much to be desired want to feel like people. Not prestigious, low-paid, humiliating work encourages many of you to spend money on yourselves. You want to live a full life. But think about your deplorable financial situation. Isn't it humiliating? Is the poverty you drive yourself into better? You understand, all these little things, all these small joys, they are not worth it for you to drive yourself into a financial hole, from which it is difficult to get out. First of all, morally, when you understand that you are not a person at all, if you don't even know how to manage money. Work less. Above, we have found out that your work should be needed by society, so that you are well paid for it, and you also need to learn how to earn money in several ways.